What's up, everybody? My name is Lee. Some of you guys might know me as Intuition, and you are tuned in to Kinda Neat. Thank you guys for tuning in, as always. This week on the show, we have someone, I saw him at a show. I saw him do a song at a show. I should go out more often to concerts because then I see things and I meet people and it's nice. But his name's Ghostemane, and he is from West Palm Beach, Florida, and he is relatively new to me. He's very new to me. I didn't know him before Wednesday, maybe. But he's dope, and he's part of this weird scene that I'm trying to understand and compartmentalize in my head. But I will explain that more later. First things first, make sure that if you guys fucks with us, if you really are down for the crew, if you fucks with ya boy and with my man's Ben Shim on the boards, making the shit sound buttery, please go to patreon.com/kinda-neat and just pledge your support. Now, if you're a first-time listener or if you're new to the show, you don't have to. If you're just dipping your toes in the water, you don't have to do this yet. But like I said, man, if this is part of your weekly entertainment, if we are part of your routine and you listen to me on the train or at work or on a bicycle, go to patreon.com/kinda-neat, pledge $1 per episode, and keep the lights on around here. Help us make some money. Help us help you stay entertained. Or you can go to paypal.me/kinda-neat. That's paypal.me/kindaneat. And just pledge a couple bucks that way too. That's just like a one-time donation. Somebody told me that was smart, and I'm like, that does sound smart. So if you want to send me some money, keep in mind it is my birthday on Friday. It's my birthday. Speaking of PayPal, I got a fucking letter from the government when I got back from Alaska that I owe a shit ton of money in back taxes. I'm like a real rapper. I'm like Wesley Sniping out here. So yeah, I'm in panic mode right now trying to gather all the funds I have tucked away everywhere so I can keep the government off my butt. I pay my taxes. I always do. It's just that I didn't realize. I thought PayPal was going to send me something you need to report this. And so, yeah, I'm learning as I go. It's hard being a young hustler, well, a middle-aged hustler now because I'll be 35 on Friday. Anyway, yeah, I was at home. That's why we took a little bit of a break. I was at home in Alaska because, like I told you guys last episode, my brother was getting married. So congratulations to my brother Steven and his wife Kendra. They are now married. And the wedding went great. You know, it's funny. It's a funny thing about weddings. There's so much stress and planning and all this stuff, and I didn't really have to partake in too much of the stress or planning because I don't live in the state, but I was the best man of the wedding, and Steven wanted me to pick out the outfits that the groomsmen would wear. Him and Kendra, they sent me a bunch of inspiration tear sheets, and so he wanted to go with no jackets for the groomsmen, just slacks, a shirt, tie, and suspenders. And I'm a portly man, so I prefer a belt because I like to wrench it in and make my gut look skinnier, but I wore suspenders. And it was cool, man. We looked sharp. During the wedding, I looked back, and the groomsman behind me was my best friend from my childhood, Sean, who's now one of my brother's best friends. And as soon as Kendra was walking down the aisle, he had just tears flowing down his face because he's very sensitive. He's he's the nicest, warmest guy. He's so funny. But I look back, and he's just crying, and I was like, fuck. Because then Kendra's sisters start crying, and then I'm like, part of me was like, well, am I an evil person for not wanting to cry? And then I was looking at them, and I instantly wanted to cry. And I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not evil, but also fuck, now I'm about to cry. But I didn't. I held it back during the ceremony mostly, and it went smooth. But yeah, like I said, you have to do all this planning, and then it's all kind of just for this one big party night, and everybody's so worried about everything. But it's just fun, dude. It was a fun wedding. My dad was dancing, and it was pretty turned up as far as weddings go. People stayed until the very end dancing, and all generations were really cutting a rug. It was pretty cool. And during the best man speech, I definitely choked up a few times. I wrote a fucking essay and just read it, and there were definitely parts where I was surprised at how emotional I got. And I don't know. I'm happy for my brother. I'm happy for Kendra. They're a good couple, and it makes me excited for the prospect of love. While I was home after the wedding, a whole big group of us went to Denali National Park, and my best friend down here, Dom, who has been on the podcast, who I work with and shoot photos with. You guys know him if you follow along. Dom and his family came up because he shot the wedding, and he brought the 3 boys up, my nephews, Nolan, Gavin, and Devin, and his wife, Kristen, and they all came up. And it was cool because that's their first time ever going to Alaska, and Dom is he's like a voracious traveler. Like when we travel, he wants to, even if we only have a day in a city, he's the type to like try to figure some shit out to do. You know what I mean? Like we got to find the cool shit to do. So it was really for me like going to Alaska with a fresh pair of eyes, because this stuff that I grew up doing that seemed so boring to me, or almost embarrassing to an extent. Like when I moved to California, it's like a cool bar story to tell that you grew up in Alaska, but for all intents and purposes, like I'm not like super proud of growing up in Alaska. I don't know how to explain. I'm not ashamed of it, but I'm not like, yo, my childhood was so awesome compared to everyone else's because of this and that and the other and the things that I did. And it's almost like I tried to hide it a little bit. Like stuff that just seemed normal to me growing up was like so new to them through eyes that had never been up there before, him and his kids. And so just doing normal shit, like going to this lake across the highway from my house called Chino Lakes, like we saw this backside of the lake that I didn't even know existed, because everybody always just kind of hangs out on the front of the lake where this little makeshift beach is and people swim, and we ended up taking a walk all the way around to the backside of the lake and renting paddle boards and shit, and it was just like amazing. It was just so fun. It was 80 degrees out and beautiful, and we're chasing around like, you know, duck families and trying to avoid beavers and shit. It was pretty dope. But right after the wedding, a big group of like 40 people went to Denali, like I was saying, which is a national park in Alaska. And that was the only 3 days of rain that we got in the 10 days that we were up there. So I was going to say camping. It was a glamping. We were glamorously camping in nice cabins. And there's stuff to do in Denali, but I don't know how to explain it. You can't really go into the park and just camp. You know what I mean? Like it's a very restricted wilderness area because the tundra is sensitive and the ecosystem there is sensitive. There's not a lot of food for the animals to eat. They don't want the animals to get used to humans, et cetera, et cetera. But we saw some moose out there, which is cool. It's nice to see some wildlife. Did not get to see any bears. Did not see any caribou to my knowledge. But at one point, the last day that we were in Denali, we were going on a hike, and we went to just do this real simple hike. It's not an athletic hike or nothing. You just walk down to this lake called Horseshoe Lake. It's about walking around the whole thing. It's probably only, I don't know, a mile and a half maybe. And I've done it before and just kind of like walked down, got the scenery, and walked back up. Never walked around the whole thing. But this trip, this one was pretty epic because we walked down, and as soon as we walk down, we see a moose in the water already. And so we walk down and we kind of get some long distance pictures of that. And then it kind of disappears into this. I don't know where it went. I don't remember the whole fucking story because the end of the story is so crazy that it blocked out a bunch of my other memories. But the point is that we start walking around the lake after sitting in one spot and taking a bunch of kind of like wide photos of this moose and then it disappearing into the woods again. We walk around the lake, and I can't even describe the beauty of it. The lake is like crystal clear. You can see all the rocks in there. You can see the algae at the bottom of the lake that the moose was eating. You know what I mean? Like the water's perfectly still, like a fucking mirror. There's cliffs around it. There's trees and woods, and there's a beaver dam on both sides. And so we're walking around the backside, and we get to a certain point where it's like real clear, and there's a bunch of rocks, so we're skipping rocks and stuff. And then a fucking giant owl flies over us, and like seeing an owl is pretty goddamn rare, particularly during the day because they're they're night creatures, obviously. But this giant owl flies over us and like perches up on a rock right up the way. It looks like a damn gargoyle. The thing's like 4 feet tall. It was awesome seeing an owl fly because I've only seen living in Alaska for 15 years. I only saw an owl maybe twice. And after we see the owl, we walk a few more feet and we realize like, holy shit, that moose is back out there in the water on the other side. And so we're like, yo, we should like walk over there quick, because you can see how close he is to this other section of the lake where there's a beaver dam, which is very accessible by the trail. So we walk around the backside of the lake, and takes you over by the Nanana River, and you see that, and then you walk back around, and we get to where that beaver dam is, and this fucking moose is like right off the shore of the lake, like probably only 40 feet from us, just chilling. And it's like a young bull moose, like a teenage bull moose, I would say. So it doesn't have a full rack, but its rack is just starting to kind of sprout. It's got two like kind of little mini horns coming out of its forehead, and it's not fully grown. It's still pretty thin. Like, it's not, I mean, as far as moose go, moose kind of look like goofy looking horses. Like, they look like horses with dumb noses. And but they're also like way taller than horses. Their legs are like about 6 feet tall by themselves. And so this fool's in the water, is eating and chilling and looking at us like we're all by the shore. There's probably 20 people at this point, like taking pictures of it and shit. Everybody had congregated around, but we stuck around the longest, and like these other groups kind of took off, and we're just sticking around looking. It's like me, Dom, his 3 kids, my uncle Eddie, my cousin Tyler, my cousin Brett, and that's pretty much the group. And we're down there real fucking close to this moose, and everybody's really stoked because they've never even seen moose before, let alone being this close to a moose, which is like, for full disclosure, you're not supposed to be this close to a moose. Like, it's fucking dangerous. We grow up in Alaska getting shown danger videos all the time of like, yo, stay away from moose because this is what'll happen. And then they show this dude getting stomped the fuck out on a bank, on the stairway of a bank in Anchorage because he got too close to a moose. You know, that being said, this was a male, and it's not a, like, females with calves are very fucking protective, but this guy was kind of like, he seemed like he was used to people being around him, and he wasn't really tripping, and he was eating copious amounts of algae from the bottom of a lake. So for the time being, it seemed safe enough. We're taking pictures of him, video, whatever, and we're all just sitting there real quiet. The kids are like, whoa, shit, you know, and we're all happy and stoked. And at one point, after sitting there watching him for maybe 15 minutes, I see that he's starting to walk towards the shore. And these things can cook in the water because they're long. Their legs are really long and skinny, so they cut right through the water. So what might take a dog like 5 minutes to swim over to the shore takes this moose only about 8 or 10 steps. And so I'm like, okay, all right, guys, it's time to start moving. Like, as I see him getting towards the shore, it's time to start moving. Everybody get up, walk. And so everybody's starting to kind of shuffle away and walk. And I'm walking backwards, trying to make sure I'm walking backwards at the front of the pack so that everybody is like, I'm looking over everyone's shoulders to make sure that like the moose isn't coming at us. But I'm telling everybody to like be real quiet and just keep fucking walking because we're way too close to this moose, and in a national park where you're not supposed to really be this close to the moose. So we're already like kind of breaking the rules. Whoops. And at this point, I see the moose making it to the trail that we were on and poking his head like kind of through the trees, and his front paws or his front hooves are like fully on the trail, but you can't see his back half yet. And I'm telling him, okay, keep walking. And he's looking over at us, but not tripping. And at this point, I would say we're about 25, 30 yards away from him. That's still extremely close to a moose because they're fast too. Like, horses are fast, moose are fast. You feel me? And he takes a couple more steps, and then he's fully on the trail, and you can really see how big he is because some of the comments while he was in the water is like, wow, it's not as big as I thought it would be, you know? But it's because like he was 3/4 of his height was covered in water pretty much. And when he gets fully out and he's visible on the trail, I go, holy shit. I'm like, yo, look at that. And I'm thinking everybody would just kind of like look over their shoulder and keep walking. And I'm like, yo, look, because he's fully out. And everybody, all like 8 of us or however many, everybody fucking turns around at the same time and looks at the moose. And to that moose, it must have looked like a pack of wolves just noticing him. A bunch of predators, you know, all of a sudden turned around at him at the same time. And he was not hyped on that shit. He took like 2 little steps towards us. And I'm like, oh God. I was like, oh guys, go. And then he starts running, and he takes like 4 good gallops at us, and I'm like, run! Fucking Dom scoops up the baby Devin, and he's like pulling Gavin, the 8-year-old, by his collar, kind of like, come on, run. And Nolan, his eldest son, who's autistic, who I've talked about, he fucking straight dipped he was running, and my uncle and his kids, and we're all just jetting, and I'm still looking over my shoulder running, and Dom's like, should we run into the woods? And I'm like, not yet, not yet. I'm thinking like we should wait until the last second to like dodge the motherfucker. If he's going to run down the trail, I'm like, don't break off into the woods and split up until he's close enough that he like can't pick a target of any of us. So I'm like, just keep running. And I look back forward and there's a lady that's coming down the trail, and I just go, I'm like, go, go. I'm like waving my hand at her like, go. So we're fucking jetting, dude. And you know, I look back over my shoulder and he stopped after only a few steps. But for those few steps, I was like, fuck, there's a fucking moose charging us. This is not good. I thought somebody was going to get fucked up. I thought we were going to get fucked up. I thought it was going to be all bad for one split second. But thankfully, we got out of sight and the moose just kind of like, I didn't see him after that. That was it. After we were out of his line of sight, I saw him slow down and not fully charge at us, and then we were out of his sight, and I felt like we were safe. So we just briskly walked back up to the top of the trail, and the trail forks at a certain point where you can either go down the lake one way or go the other. And where it was forked, there was like maybe 5 or 6 people gathered up there. And I'm like, yo, don't go this way, because there's a young, agitated bull moose down there that will not want to see you, and he's right on the trail. So I would go around the other way, and they're like, oh, thank you, you know. And yeah, so that was probably the most adrenaline filled part of the trip. That happened, and that's something that I've never experienced having lived there. And so it was kind of a stupid rookie mistake. Like, that's something that I would expect a first time group of people visiting Alaska for their first time to do. But that's something that like someone who grew up there would usually clown on people for. So as soon as we get back to the camp, everybody's like, oh man, a fucking moose charged at us. I'm like, let's slow down about saying charged at us, because I didn't want to look like a fucking idiot that induced a bull to charge at us, because that's embarrassing as a quote unquote Alaskan. So I'm like, let's not say charge. He galloped at us a little bit. He didn't really fully charge, but for all intents and purposes, that moose fucking charged at us. Yeah, I'm stoked that they got to experience that, though. That's something that hopefully the kids will get to talk about at their show and tell when they get back to school. What else happened in Fairbanks? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, we just had a lot of fun, man. We did a lot of cool shit. Went to the salmon bake. Fireworks are like mega legal in Alaska, so we bought like $300 of fireworks, and we're popping those off right before we were supposed to leave to the airport. You know, like we were running late on the flight and decided to pop them off because we were having a big barbecue at my house. And set off so much smoke on this fucking floodplain that like one of the fire marshals came out and he's like, hey, okay, the smoke must have just been you guys, huh? All right, well, I just wanted to come. I thought, I was like, oh, great, we're going to get arrested before we get on our flight. But he was just like, oh, okay, cool, you guys are just popping off fireworks. No big deal. See you later. Didn't ask for any IDs or nothing. I was like, whoa, cops in Alaska are pretty chill. But he wasn't a cop, he was a fire marshal, so whatever. Fire marshals in Alaska are pretty chill. Yeah, I had to, and I flew with my grandmother, which was, she's a handful, great lady. It's a lot of work traveling with somebody that's like, well, she's kind of immobile right now. Like she has a bad hip. So we're like rolling around in wheelchairs and stuff. It was just, I don't know. It was eventful. It was fun. This is the first time I've gone home in a long time and not been like, oh God, I stayed too long. Like, I can't wait to get back. I mean, you guys remember, if you go back in last time that I visited and listened, I was like, I hate going home and I didn't have fun and I don't have coping strategies for my depression there and blah, 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 blah. This time we had so much stuff planned out to do that it was fucking tight, and I actually could have stayed a couple more days. It was a really good trip. But I am happy to be back and doing podcasts. And this podcast, like I said, is with a gentleman named Ghostemane. And Ghostemane is from Florida. And I went to a Suicide Boys show on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember which day. I went to a Suicide Boys show, and it was fucking insane, dude. I'm so jealous of fans this day and age. Like, the fan, if you're like an 18-year-old rap fan, God, you have so many choices, and you also can have so much fun. Like, that whole scene of I don't know if these guys that I'm going to name would call themselves a scene, but for me, in my old brain, I compartmentalize them as having aesthetics and sounds that complement each other. I'm not saying they all sound like similar. I'm just saying that they, like, you could put them on a bill and everybody would like most all of these groups. All the fans kind of cross over of like Sesh Hollow Water Boys, who we've had on the show, Suicide Boys, of Puya and Fat Nick, you know, and now dudes like Ghostemane, and there's probably a fucking shit ton that I don't know about that I'm just learning about. But their fans have so much fun. They fucking destroy each other at shows. It's like, it's really like going to a hardcore show. And it's interesting because I think, talking to Ghostemane today, like, he's very inspired by that hardcore scene. And I would bet there's a lot of kids in that scene who are inspired by hardcore and punk music and metal. And it shows not only in their music, but in how their stage presence is and all of that stuff. So yeah, at that Suicide Boys show, I was on stage while Adam and Romo were DJing, and shout out Adam and Romo. And they brought out Ghostemane as a special guest, and he just came out and performed this song Venom, and it's the song that he's performing on the show tonight. And he came out, and I'd never really heard of him. I heard of him because I know he was on the Ham radio show, and I hadn't really heard his music, but I was impressed with his performance. It just seemed like he had good stage chops already, and he came out and kind of controlled the crowd pretty well and rapped. He rapped a lot while he was on stage. Like, there's a lot of words and spoken really fast, and I thought it was impressive. And so I hit up one of my homies, like, yo, who was that? And they're like, oh, it's Ghostemane, he's dope, like, blah, 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 blah. And he just moved out here. So anyway, I see him backstage, get his number, and fucking 4 days later, here we are. And it was a really cool conversation. He just kind of dropped everything recently within the last few weeks, quit his job, and moved across country from Florida to LA. And I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I hope to see big things for him, and I hope that he enjoys his time that he stays here in LA. So without further ado, here's an artist that, like I said, I'm new to, and I think that a lot of you guys will be new to as well, named Ghostemane. You just moved to LA?
Yeah. A couple weeks ago.
Oh, only a couple weeks. When you so I met you the other night at the Suicide Boys show and saw you perform one song, and I was like, whoa, that was dope. Like, you have good energy on stage. You seem like you've got some stage chops already. I don't know how long you've been rapping, but as we got to chatting, you're like, oh yeah, I just moved here. When you said that, I assumed a few months or something. No. You just got here.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, me and my girl drove across the country from Florida.
Yeah.
So it was like 3 days, and we just powered through it. We were in separate cars too, so we just drove in like 12-hour intervals.
Wait, why are you guys in separate cars? Is that the backup plan? Is one of you has an escape route if you got to get home?
No, we just I don't know. That's how we've always been. Like, we even when we used to live in houses, we'd have like separate bedrooms. We'd sleep in one room, but we each have our own room, so we have our own space.
That's smart.
So it's not like, you know, we're always in each other's face. And we both happen to have separate cars, and we wanted to bring both of our cars.
Y'all just independent.
Yeah, exactly.
Independent as fuck.
Just smart. I mean, and we've been together 3 years, so it works out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How was the drive?
It was good, honestly. Like, the first like 2,000 miles were straight, but then once we hit like New Mexico, my car started fucking up, and I was mad because I have this Grand Marquis, and it's got like 22-inch chrome rims. Like, it's a beautiful ride, but I had to sell it to even get to California because I knew that wouldn't make it across the country.
That sounds like a real Florida-ass car right there. Like a Trick Daddy video or something.
Yeah. And I had it for like 3 years. It's been in a lot of my music videos. It's my favorite ride. But I have another car, the Nissan Pathfinder, that I knew would be better to drive.
Yeah.
So I sold the other one, drove the Pathfinder, and then sure as shit, the Pathfinder, the transmission takes a shit in like New Mexico.
Oh.
So I'm driving in like first gear the whole way. Like, it wasn't shifting gears for whatever reason. So... but yeah, other than that, you know, it was good.
Damn, how you have so many cars? Is Florida just that cheap to live in, or what?
No, I used to have a really good job. I was making like $65,000 a year, and I just saved.
Get out! What were you doing?
just like phone sales type shit, like business to business sales, like commercial airtime sales and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't a face-to-face type of thing? Because you got like the face tats and everything.
No, yeah. I was tatted up sitting in an office just selling. Like, I was pitching CEOs. They didn't know. They thought I was older. Like,
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Because I like your appearance when you walk into a place, like, I wouldn't suspect that you were the job having type.
Yeah.
You got the hands are tatted, legs are tatted up and down, face tats on both sides. Like, yeah.
Now I'm definitely not the job working type, but before, that's all I knew, you know. I worked hard for.
Are you born and bred in Florida?
Yeah.
What was your family like? How'd your family end up in Florida?
Well, they're from New York. And then like a year before I was born, they decided to fuck New York and they're going to move to Florida for whatever the hell reason. I don't know. Yeah. But I guess get a new start or something. And that's what people from New York do. I guess they just
everybody migrates to Florida from New York, from the East Coast.
And so then they had me, and then when I was 17, my dad passed, and my mom said, okay, fuck Florida, I'm going back to New York. I didn't want to go to New York, so I stayed and just lived on my own pretty much.
Wow.
And then I'd visit my mom once a year.
Really?
In New York, yeah.
How did your dad pass away?
It's basically, I guess, sort of like long-term accidental overdose. Like, he had bad, like, back problems.
Yeah.
So he was prescribed, like, heavy narcotics, like morphine and shit. And then to me, it's really unknown, whether or not he took too much of it or whatever. I just know that, he took a specific pill, like a morphine tablet. He like chomped down on it when you're supposed to swallow it or something. And then he went to sleep because he had pneumonia at that time. Yeah. And then I actually had it at the same time. But he just didn't wake up, basically went to sleep and
Jesus.
Wake up. Yeah.
It's so crazy. The fucking opioid epidemic in America. Like, it's funny because right now is that time where you're like reading about it so much, but then to have that personal experience with it is, it really humanizes it. That's
why I don't fuck with pills at all. I'm terrified of pills. I've never taken a pill. Like, I don't like it at all. Like,
really, which is interesting because I feel like you're part of a scene that's like super pill popping.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not about it. Like. There's certain stuff I like, I'm into tripping, like, I like psychedelics and, like, cocaine here and there or whatever, but I'm really, like, pills to me is just a different animal because it's, like, something that, like, it's manufactured and you just don't know what's in it, Like,
which is funny because you do know exactly what's in it. You know exactly what's in it, but you don't really know what those... you
don't know how you'll react.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, to me, I feel like I just got this fear that I'm going to just, like, OD.
It's such the Wild West. You know what I mean? Yeah. And all of those pills, it's like the more you take, the more you can take eventually.
Exactly. Yeah, and your tolerance goes up.
And eventually it's like your body's just like, no, you're not supposed to take this many pills,
Yeah. All my friends, I don't care who does it. Like most of my friends do. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I'd rather do other shit.
Right. Acid or mushrooms? Which psychedelic? What do you prefer?
Because of where I'm from, like the only acid available was tabs, which is like basically research chems, like 2,5-I and stuff like that. I prefer mushrooms over that shit because like the research chems, like. The calm down makes me so depressed. Like, I used to get, like, just real bad. Like, I think because it depletes the shit out of my serotonin or something, I just get really depressed. Whereas mushrooms, like, I would just kind of stop tripping and be okay and then, like, be really inspired, like, to go, like, make music or whatever. So I kind of always prefer shrooms because I've never had, like, any sort of bad experience off it. So
it's funny. I'm the opposite. I always had bad experiences on shroom and great experiences on acid. Yeah. I haven't done either in fucking years, but as a kid, I was, like, more acid than mushrooms. I don't know why. I would always have bad trips.
Yeah.
Well, damn, man, your fucking dad dies at 17. Like, how do you handle that? Is that dark depression after that or what?
Well, yeah, sort of. And also, like, I don't know, because my dad was really, like, he held me back a lot because he was really, like, tyrannical in the way that he ran the household, and, like, was really strict and stuff. Sort of like, I guess, what they call, like, a helicopter parent. And, so, I didn't really have a lot of friends as a kid because I'd never be allowed to, like, go over people's houses and stuff. So I was kind of just a loner. Well, I have my little brother, but it was just us two, really.
Mm-hmm. And how much younger is he?
He's 4 years younger.
Okay.
And then when he died, I kind of went nuts and I, stretched my ears and got tattoos, dyed my hair, and just did everything that I always wanted to do, basically.
But he wouldn't let you.
Yeah. So
was he strict in a physical sense too? Was it like an abusive type of relationship or no?
I mean, sort of, yeah. It wasn't as bad as it could have been in that respect. A lot of it was just the fear of like what might happen. It was just, you know.
And was that kind of strictness more directed towards you and your brother, or was your mom also a victim of that as well?
Yeah, it was kind of all of us, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah,
so he was just like a man with a heavy hand.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I love him and I miss him. He taught me a lot of shit, but basically, if he didn't pass, though, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing anything I want to do. You know, I'd probably have a job that I don't like that he wanted me to do or some shit.
Right.
So, you know.
So did they move down to Florida without any family down there? It was just kind of your little unit, and that was it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, his biological father, who he wasn't raised by, which is my grandpa, lived there, and because long story short, my dad was raised with a different last name. He didn't find out who his real dad was till he was like 18, 19.
Oh, no shit.
So it was just world shattering, basically. And he found out, wow, my real dad's in Florida. Like, I'm going to go connect with him and just kind of start over new, I guess. And then, you know, he did that, and that's like, I guess, sort of what brought him down here. And
so, that being said, like, did he keep in touch with his mom and his like stepdad that he didn't realize was his stepdad?
Not really.
Or did he break ties with them?
Kind of broke ties, yeah. I mean, yeah, growing up, like he even ended up breaking ties with his dad, like my grandpa too.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any sort of family connection growing up at all. Like there was like one aunt from New York that would visit. But other than that, I was really just like, it was just my mom and dad, and that's it. And like my brother, you know, so.
That's funny, man. I feel like my dad was very similar to that in that he was from Pennsylvania, and he joined the military. We moved to Alaska, never kept in contact with his side of the family, like, at all. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've seen his mom in real life probably like 4 times, 5 times my whole life.
Wow.
With that said, like, do you feel like the way your familial unit was so kind of independent and by itself and its own little island that it affected how you are too with your friend base on a smaller level, you know what I mean? Like at a microcosm?
Yeah, I never really thought about that. Honestly, it might have, sort of. I mean, like growing up though, I guess it's because of the fact that I never had a lot of friends to begin with, like because of how my dad was, that I sort of got used to just like doing everything by myself.
Right.
And then also once I started like making music on my own, because like I was in bands and stuff, which was cool. Those were like my only like real friends at the time. And then when I started like, you know, rapping or whatever, I started to realize that like anytime I tried to get something done, like whether it was a music video or photo editing or anything really, or mixing and mastering, like it would just always either take forever, or no one would ever actually do it. So I started just doing it all by myself,
alone.
Yeah, that's why like I film. My girl shoots all my videos. I edit all of them. I do all my graphic work, mixing, mastering, all that stuff.
Right.
So it's like it's sort of just further reinforced the fact that, you know, just I don't really need anybody. You know.
Right.
Yeah, I got some friends out here like. I mean, I consider them more my friends than like anybody else I've had. So, but
no, I relate to that heavy, dude. I relate to that heavy, and just as I've gotten older, I think I see people that grew up with like big family units and like extended family and cousins and yada yada yada, and I look at their social personalities and it reflects in their relationships with like their peers, where it's like they have huge friend groups because they grew up in huge families. Yeah. Whereas like someone like you or like me, I feel like we're more kind of lonerish or something.
Yeah. I think that's what it is too. And just like like the way my dad was, like he had some friends when I was like a toddler sort of.
What did he do for work?
Well, before, because he was crippled, like I said, but before that, he was a phlebotomist, so he drew blood.
Drew blood.
He was really good at it too, from what I hear. But then he got injured, and he was pretty much, he was like on disability basically my whole life.
Well, so he was like in a wheelchair then, or what?
No, he was, he had to use a cane, but he was always getting constant like back surgery and stuff like that.
Oh, and, shit.
Yeah. But he was home like 24/7, and my mom was sort of paid by the government to like stay home and take care of him, like as a home health aide type deal. So both my parents were home 24/7.
Right.
Which is another thing, like growing up, especially once you hit teenage years, it's like I got almost no privacy.
No privacy.
It felt like, it was weird, man. I just had kind of a weird upbringing, I guess.
Yeah.
And it all reinforces the loner shit, because like my dad never had people over once he got hurt. He didn't want anybody over.
Right.
He was embarrassed, I guess.
Did he start gaining a lot of weight because of it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he gained a lot of weight because he used to be.
Well, with the opioids and with the injury, I would imagine both of those would just like...
Oh, yeah. Because you see old pictures of him, he's like an upside-down triangle, like tiny legs, giant. Like, he used to work out a lot. And then, he just sort of his metabolism slowed down and all that. So.
That sucks, man.
Yeah.
What were you into as a real young kid before you discovered music? Like, how were you as a youth?
Shit.
Were you more outgoing back then or no?
I mean... I don't know. Like I got picked on at school a lot, and then I had to like
for what?
Fight for whatever reason. I don't know. I guess like, also a lot of times because like I went to elementary school and middle school in areas that were predominantly like black or Hispanic, so I was typically the only white kid in my class. So I got picked on because of that sometimes, which that never really had like a lasting effect on me, surprisingly, because I just sort of defended myself and just kind of learned how to fight early, I guess.
Right.
And then from there, it was just for, I guess, various other things. Like I never had like super nice clothes or anything, so typical like get roasted for that shit in high school or whatever.
Right. What are those type of shit?
Yeah. What are those?
What are those?
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. If what are those was around in high school, that's exactly what they would have said.
Right. Isn't that funny though? How some kids get bullied and learn how to fight, and some kids get bullied and learn how to like joke. You know what I mean? Like you either become the funny kid or the fucking tough weird kid.
Exactly. And I am not I'm not good at roasting or anything. Like whenever it was time for me to the only way I knew how was to physically fight. Like I couldn't say anything off the top of my head like that. So I was just like, just.
Do you remember your first fight?
Yeah.
How did it go?
I got my ass kicked because I was in second grade and it was a fourth grader.
Yeah.
So fourth graders at the time were like, holy shit.
Right.
And this dude who was just this big, like Spanish dude, Hispanic, and he kind of looked like a gangbanger because he had his eyebrows shaved and shit. And he was only in fourth grade. I think he was supposed to be in like middle school though. But like to be honest with you,
he's a high school fourth grader.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like he was standing there like talking shit to me, and in the middle of him talking shit, I just stuck him in the stomach. I should have hit him in the face, but I stuck him in the stomach.
Yeah.
And he just jumped on me and started beating my ass. Like my
those
whole
body
face was
shots,
swollen.
that's the long game. That's not the short game.
Yeah, I was an idiot. And then I went home and my dad was like, you always hit the face first. Like he always sort of reinforced me like trying to learn how to fight, which is a good thing,
Right.
So, but yeah, ever since then, though, I sort of just like learn, how to defend yourself, I guess.
Well, so growing up as a white kid in a school where you're the minority, how does that affect your... I'm very interested in race relations in America in general. So I'm curious, like, how that affects your mentality about black people and Latino people. Like, are you more drawn to them in your adult life?
Well, yeah. I feel that way, honestly. And also part of it was like my dad growing up was severely like anti-racist. Like he and I guess it's also too because in Florida, like a lot of the white folks there are just like naturally racist for whatever.
Yeah, kind of hicks, huh?
Yeah. That's how it felt anyway growing up. Because I had nothing to compare it to, I guess. But like
no shots fired at Florida. But
yeah, no
shots.
Shots
a lot of hicks out there.
Yeah, definitely. But he was very like he was just very big on like never use the N-word type stuff and like things like that, and that sort of made me it combated anything that I think a typical like white kid getting bullied by another race would have felt, and it just sort of made me like just sympathize and just be like, okay, like it's not because of race, it's whatever, just sort of like, and then getting older though, I feel like I just relate to shit more than like I guess your average like white kid would for some reason. Like any chance he could too. My dad because I played football as a kid, like little league football. Yeah. And there was like Pop Warner League, which was like the rich
Pop
kids
Warner.
would go to. Yeah. And then there was Lake Lytle, which was like very cheap and just like lower grade, and I guess and he purposely like put us in Lake Lytle because he wanted me and my brother to be around like diversity and not be around like a bunch of white kids all the time.
Right.
Which I totally really congratulate him for that because when you're younger, man, it's like white kids are ruthless sometimes. And
Fuck,
it's just,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of,
I
like...
mean, even when you're older, white people are
Yeah,
ruthless.
definitely true, yeah. And it's just a lot of, like, ignorance and stuff, and I think that helped me not grow up around ignorance, because I was just sort of, like, always exposed to just different cultures and stuff like that. So,
Totally.
yeah, I really like it, honestly.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And you said you're from West Palm Beach. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the whole time you guys didn't bounce around anywhere.
Nah, it was always the Palm Beach area. I mean, just like cities in Palm Beach, like Lake Worth. I spent most of my time, and Lantana and stuff like that. But
break it down for people. Like, what is sociologically? What's West Palm Beach like?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I've traveled all around Florida, shooting for photo jobs. I've never really found a part of Florida that I vibe with.
Yeah.
But I was telling you that I liked West Palm Beach because of Rachel's.
Yeah.
I think I actually talked about after the trip. I talked about it on the podcast where like I went to this steakhouse is the best steakhouse ever because there's naked women everywhere. But I loved Rachel's. But I always thought West Palm Beach. I think maybe because of golf courses and stuff like that, I always thought it was like kind of a rich area or something.
It's like half and half, honestly, like, because a lot of people from other states, they have houses in Florida or they come to Florida to retire.
Like snowbirds?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like old money there too.
Right.
And then there's like it's a mixture of that, like old folks, like supposedly I looked it up one time, like the average age in Palm Beach is 68 years old, so there's a lot of old people.
Whoa.
And then at the same time there's the younger generation, which is a lot of kids that come from other states for our rehabs, because it's also the rehab capital.
Whoa.
And a lot of those kids end up like relapsing and stuff.
And just staying there?
Yeah, and just sort of staying there forever. And,
no shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like, it's like narcotics and old people and golf courses and pretty much what it is.
So did you grow up around a lot of people, watching a lot of people fucking OD and being on narcotics and shit?
Yeah, and that kind of stuff is common.
What's like popular there? Oxycontin and shit like that, or heroin, or what?
It was I guess Oxycontin when I was younger, sort of before I had friends doing it. But then it became, I mean, sort of like it is here, I guess, just like Xanax and Roxy's and what they call blues and stuff like that.
What are blues? I'm old. I don't know any of these.
Dude, I don't even know. Like, I forgot what my girl knows. I forgot which one it is. But basically, it's just like the worst thing you could ever do. From what I
is it fentanyl? Is that what blues are? Yeah. I was reading. All right, it's like inundated in the news right now. But I think fentanyl is like 50 times stronger than heroin or something like that.
Yeah, it's always something new, man. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of lucky I've stayed away from it.
What happened to weed? Back in my day, we just used to smoke weed. That's funny. So you played football. Did you stick with football?
Yeah, I played Little League for like 5 years, and then I played high school football like all 4 years.
What did you play?
Varsity. I was in the secondary, so I was like a safety and then a cornerback. Yeah,
totally.
And then
were you good?
I was all right.
Yeah, but you played varsity all 4 years?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I was decent at it. Once I hit like 10th grade, I kind of lost passion for it, and then it started to become where like my dad kind of forced me to just stick with it because I wanted to. That's around the time I picked up a guitar, and I was like, damn, I just want to be a rock star, man. Like,
right.
That's all I wanted ever since I was like 14 years old, was to just
same. Well, before that, did you excel in school? Like you said, your dad was a helicopter dad, so like did he force you to like?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got
A's
straight A's. Yeah, B's. I was like questioned as to like why was a B,
right.
Stuff like that. It was whack, dude.
So you didn't have the type of parents that would reward you for getting good grades. They was just expected. Kind
of, yeah. I mean, if it was straight A's, I'd be rewarded somehow. Like give me $20 or something.
Really?
Or, or like just general telling me I did a good job, I guess. But
totally.
It was always straight A's, and then question about the B's. C's were like F's. Might as well have been F's. It was.
Were you well rounded? Where you were like as good with your left and right brains as far as like math and English go, or did you prefer one over the other? I
was really into math. I still am really into math.
Really?
Yeah. I'm trying to go back to school for physics.
Really?
Yeah, because math is just like a strong point for me, and sort of intertwines with everything that I'm interested in now, which is astrophysics and like the study of the universe and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, as a kid, I was always just really good at math. Reading, not so much. I swear, like my dad didn't believe in like diagnosis like ADD and stuff like that.
Right.
But if he did, a doctor would have definitely told me I had like attention deficit disorder.
Really?
When I read, even to this day, when I read, sometimes I just like second paragraph in, I start thinking about other things. Like
I do the same thing.
Yeah,
zone
like
off
while I'm reading. It's
Right.
crazy, man.
It's almost like this weird form of hypnotization where like I'll read the same paragraph 3 times because I'm not paying attention and thinking about other shit.
Exactly. It happens to me now. Even now, I read a lot. Like I'm working on like a few different books at a time.
Same.
But it still happens to me. Like I figure eventually with practice it would stop, but it still happens. It's weird.
Well, so now you're more passionate about reading now because you can read what you want to read. Is that what it is?
I guess, yeah. And I actually found stuff that I'm interested in. I mean, I was into, I'm still into like comics and stuff, like certain comic series and like manga, but I started getting heavy into books, related to the universe and philosophy and things like that. But specifically, like what I'm into, like sometimes it's so overwhelming, the things that like interest me, that I gotta like sort of just marginalize it and be like, okay, I'm gonna focus on this for like 6 months and then I'll move on to other shit.
Right.
You know? So, it's kind of stressful doing that.
What was your gateway into like astrophysics? Like what first put you, or what was the opening drug?
Honestly, it was like one night my girl was on the computer, and because we've always sort of been like interested, just kind of like anybody is, you're interested when you see anything about like alchemy or magic, you're like, ooh,
Right.
And like she was doing some kind of research on it for whatever reason, and found this site dedicated to Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
And from there I was like, who the hell was this dude? And just sort of like we explored the site, and then from there I actually I watched some documentaries on him, and then I got into his books, really mainly like the Book of the Law. And then that opened me into this whole world of occultism related to alchemy and philosophy.
Is Crowley the one that said, "Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law"?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until you violate the rights of another or something like that?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Thelema, yeah.
Yeah.
He took his spin on, because it's funny, man, like religion and how, kids nowadays, sort of like we were talking about before, they embody like this idea of like Satanism, which, they're always talking about, like what they're talking about is really just like LaVeyan Satanism, which was invented in the 60s, like only 50 years ago, It's from Anton LaVey, who sort of adopted, the inverted pentagram, and made his own version of that, and which is basically just give in to temptation whenever you want.
Right.
Sort of embodying, like, I guess, the Christian's idea of Satan, and they, reject the idea of any sort of theistic Satanism where you actually worship like an actual Satan, like a deity, like a devil, and it's more just about like non-theistic Satanism, and kids don't even realize that nowadays. Like they, they'll like take pictures holding like the Book of Satan, and they don't even realize that book rejects devil worship. It's about non-theistic. It's like, so I'm kind of going on a tangent here.
No,
but
it's fine. I'm down.
Yeah, but I'm all about promoting actually reading into what the hell you're like.
Totally.
Yeah.
So Aleister Crowley was the philosopher that broke it wide open for you about that.
Pretty much. Yeah. He got me into John, because he apparently believed himself to be like the reincarnation of John Dee. Mm-hmm. And I heard John Dee. I was like, who the hell's that? So I looked him up. Mm-hmm. Got one of his books, The Hieroglyphic Monad, which is tatted on my thumb. I'm really into his philosophy too. He was like 500 years prior,
really,
basically, and he did a lot of groundbreaking stuff for alchemy and things like that. But
you want to hear something funny? I've never really delved fully into the Aleister Crowley philosophies or like done my history on it, but. Randomly, I think my junior or senior year of high school, I had to write some paper on my like personal beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And I like quoted Aleister Crowley, and I was like, my personal mantra is like, do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Not realizing that he was like a fucking Satanist or like whatever he is considered. Like there's all those like all the Illuminati shit about him or whatever. Secret clubs. I didn't really understand who he was. I just thought like, oh, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Like that's fucking tight. Like do what you want to do and you'll be happy.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I just feel like that paper was probably ignorant as shit, and I didn't realize it.
I mean, it's hard to, unless you, because like I've been heavily researching shit for like only probably like 8 or 9 months,
right? And
I'm just starting to scratch the surface of understanding what the hell I'm reading. Because when you first start that, if you don't stick with it, you're just going to get bits and pieces, and you're not going to really put it into context of what they're talking about. Because like Crowley, like he dubbed himself like the Great Beast 666, but a lot of that is because he grew up super orthodox, either Catholic or Christian. I want to say Catholic.
Yeah, probably Catholic.
Yeah, so he was really held to, like, his family, like, he was held to religion. So then he, I think, had a death in the family as well. And he sort of said, fuck this, and just wanted to be everything the opposite of what he grew to be. And that's how he, sort of was inspired to create Thelema. And basically he ended up, the thing about him and, like, John Dee and, like, a lot of other famous sorcerers is, like, they always, the big thing is, like, as a philosopher, is, like, the search for truth. You want to know the truth about why we're here, where the hell we came from.
Right.
And it always results in, misery, because you're as men, we're not meant to know that answer.
Right.
Basically,
there is no real answer to the eternal question of why.
Exactly.
Like, why is an unanswerable question.
It really is.
And you know when I figured that out? On an acid trip.
See, that's good. See, that's what it's there for. It's awesome because it really, if you utilize psychedelics in the right way, and you're, like, around, even if you're just by yourself or just maybe with one person that you really care about, and you're, like, in nature and shit, like, you'll really, sort of, your mind will be open to.
Oh yeah. I always say, like, I've said it a million times on the podcast, is like, you learn all the secrets of life while you're on acid, and you forget them when you snap out of it or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is kind of like that too. That's why
you figure it all out, and then the next day you're like, wait, that doesn't make sense. What did I figure out? Fuck.
Yeah, I always, like, tell myself I'm gonna, like, write shit down when I'm tripping, but I never do. It just never happens.
Did you grow up religious? You went on the Crowley tangent about him growing up strictly Catholic. Did you?
No, honestly, no. I grew up with. My dad was kind of weird. Like, he was really against Orthodox religion.
Yeah.
So we never went to church. I never set foot in a church or anything. But he was a firm believer, like, in Jesus Christ and God, which, is cool, I guess. Like, he always wore a crucifix. We wore crucifixes as kids, and he was big on, like, praying and stuff like that. But we never had a Bible in the house. He rejected the Bible. The way he felt was just God and Jesus are, inside you, to call on them when you want, which is sort of, it kind of makes sense to me now. But at
when
the
you
same
say
time,
he
like,
would pray in the house, what do you mean? Like, he would, like, it's like, okay, everybody gather up, or it's about to pray.
No. He just would advocate praying, like before we go to bed, if we wanted to, like, just quietly to ourselves, or, like, we'd say grace to God before food and, like, that kind of thing. Which, like, looking back on it now, like, it makes sense, but he should have just taken it a step further and sort of, like, maybe actually opened us up to different types of religion, like Buddhism and things like that. But, I guess it wasn't something he was passionate about, so I can't blame him. But,
totally. I find it interesting. You talk a lot about your dad, but not much about your mom.
Well, I guess it's just been the subject of the conversation, only because I'm talking about the law in the house, and it was my dad, But
what was her role in the house? She was kind of just more submissive. Was she the comforter? Was she the person that would, like, console you, or like,
always? Yeah. Me and my mom were always sort of like partners and everything. You know? And she would do everything. She went shopping because my dad couldn't leave the house a lot. So she got all the groceries, ran all the errands, cooked all the food, did everything. She was always on her feet. So, she worked really hard. And now, my dad's gone. She remarried, and she's actually really happy, which is rare and different, sort of, because she, spent 20 years sort of for the better part of that, not, as happy she could have been.
Right.
So I'm happy for her now, honestly, and she's living good the way she wants to, and she's still, like,
back in New York, you said?
Yeah, she's in New York. Yeah.
You visit?
Yeah, once a year.
Nice.
Christmas time.
Cool, man.
Yeah. But I love her. Yeah, she's inspiring to me because she pushed through all that bullshit. I've never seen my mom once just be like, fuck, this sucks. Like, like, what am I going to do? Like, she always just, like, has an answer and just does it.
Just toughs it out.
It's crazy, yeah.
That's good.
Inspiring.
Shout out, Mom.
Shout out, Mom.
You picked up a guitar when you were 14, you said.
Yeah.
What made you pick up a guitar?
I started getting into, because, like, my friend had this Guitar World magazine, and I started, because, to be honest with you, I was like, when I was like 12, 13, I became attracted to the whole aesthetic and style of punk, and I was just like, whoa, this shit's cool. So, like, I started actually getting into the bands when my friend gave me this Guitar World magazine, and it had bands like like the Vandals and like Lagwagon and NoFX and like just old punk bands and shit.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that you say old punk bands because those were like the contemporary punk
like
bands when I was a kid. Yeah, totally.
But at the time, I guess they were old, you know.
Yeah, well, they were. That was like third generation punk at the. You know what I mean? Like punk had been around a long time,
easily.
Yeah, cool. Because I remember, like in high school. Sorry to cut you off. In high school, I was totally into Lagwagon and NoFX, MXPX, shit like that.
Hell yeah.
And older punk kids would be like, "Oh, those bands are fucking rip-offs." You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That type of shit.
It's always like a cycle like that. It's funny because
it's the same thing with rap music now. Like, you know, like people from my age group and my scene would be like, "Oh, this new scene, fucking whatever, dude."
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's the same. Yeah, it's rap and punk and hardcore.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
How do you find those bands though? Or is it because you had to grow up fully on the internet, right?
No.
Why not?
I didn't start using the internet till I was 17.
Why?
When my dad passed, because we had a computer, but he never like let us use it. I was never on it. Yeah, I didn't have a MySpace or any of that till I was like 17, 18. So
that's crazy because I'm fucking 10 years older than you, and I was on the internet at age 12.
I know. So how I would do it, how I'd get new bands is I'd find the bands in magazines like Alternative Press and stuff like that. I'd write a list. And I'd go to one of the few friends I had in school who could burn CDs, and I'd say, "Yo, burn me this CD," and you know,
they would get on Napster or whatever,
or however the hell. I think they used LimeWire back then or something. Yeah, and they would come the next day with a CD, and I would just play it in my Walkman and stuff.
Wow.
That's how I got into all the bands. Basically, it's just friends burning CDs for me, and then as I got older, on demand. On like
TV,
on Comcast or whatever had something called Havoc TV, and it had all like punk videos, and I got into bands that way too.
Right.
So yeah.
With your dad being so strict before you started finding out about punk, what was was there music in the house?
Yeah, he was.
What's he into?
He was really into older metal like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
He got me into Black Sabbath, which is one of my favorite bands to this day still.
Right.
And he got me into like he was in like Van Halen and stuff like that.
Right. So like the quintessential big rock bands
basically.
of the 60s, 70s,
exactly.
80s. Classic rock. They would dub it.
Classic rock, and he was it's funny because once it started to get closer to mid 80s, he'd be like, no, like he wasn't into like AC/DC really. He wasn't. He was into some 90s stuff. Like we'd listen to like Green Day in the house sometimes, or like Nirvana, Pearl Jam. He was into some of that.
That's funny that he wasn't into AC/DC because I feel like that's some real Florida ass music.
I know, I thought so too. But it's funny. I think he's into like rock and metal, but once he would see cowboy boots, he'd be like, "Nah, this isn't a thing." It's
Dude,
funny.
AC/DC is like the quintessential fucking white trash party music.
It really is.
anytime I'm at a bonfire party in Alaska back home, there's always AC/DC
That's
blasting.
So fun. It's true.
And I would just picture it being the soundtrack to Florida as well.
Yeah.
No shots fired at Florida.
Again, no shots. Yeah, no shots at all. Yeah.
So did your style of dress change then after you discovered punk a little bit?
Yeah, like because at the same time I was getting into punk, I was already for years really into like skateboarding and like the Tony Hawk games and shit like that, and that whole style kind of.
Your dad wasn't tripping about you skating?
At first, no, but then like I started getting into shows like TV shows like Viva La Bam and Wild Boys and shit, and like he would like watch I watched it for like a little bit, and then he actually sat down and watched one with me, and he was like, "This is shit," like, and he never let me watch it again because he felt like it was like bad influence or whatever. But he did let me, like, I started wanting to wear like like spike wristbands and like big leather watches and all that embarrassing shit, like chain wallets and stuff. And, when I was like 14, 15, I was getting really into that sort of fashion and wearing like skateboarding shirts and band shirts and stuff like that.
Right.
And from there I just kind of stuck with it. I mean,
and were there a lot of other kids in that same kind of vein in your school at that time? Like when you get to high school, are you still in the minority as a white person, or does your school get whiter as you get older? How does that work?
It's still like the minority, but it's more, I guess there's like bigger, because like once you get to high school, it's like everybody's clicked up, so like there's still a small clique of like kids who listen to metal, and then there's clique of kids who listen to rap, and then there's like the football kids, and then like in my school was like the anime kids and stuff like that. So because of how I was raised earlier, I sort of like floated between all the groups.
Chameleon.
So I was like sort of friends with everybody to some extent. Which again, I thank my dad for pretty much.
Totally.
Yeah. So
you graduate high school?
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you do? Was it good?
Well, because when my dad passed, it was the last semester of senior year.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
it was the final. And at the time, I had like a 3.7. And once he passed, it dropped down to a 3.3 because I just didn't do anything. I just said fuck everything, and I didn't like do any work.
What's that like when your dad dies in high school? Like, do people start treating you different at school? Like, oh man, fucking, I always liked you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, like they don't even like know what to say. I feel like they just kind of want to be there for me, I guess.
That's such a young age to try and cope with something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, the teachers. I had a couple good teachers. One in particular who. She, when she was a kid, she lost a parent too. So she was like, I understand. She's like, you know, you don't have to do anything if you don't want. Like, I understand. And like, but it's weird about how high school worked because I did so good. And even after I said fuck everything, and it was still a 3.3, which is like an AB average. Right. Me graduating came down to one test, like, because a required course to graduate or whatever is like American history. Right. And I failed my American history exam because I didn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. And failing that exam makes you fail high school, basically. Like, you have to go to like summer school and everything. Like, it doesn't matter your GPA. It's all it all comes down to tests. You know, it's crazy. So
so how, did you pass? Did you end up like retaking it or something?
Yeah. My teacher let me retake it.
Nice.
He normally would never do that, but I guess in light of my situation, he gave me a second chance, and I passed it because I actually studied, and I ended up passing. So yeah.
You know, there's like statistically, like, people who have parents that die young go on to be very successful. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, I would imagine that I probably read it in like a Malcolm Gladwell book or something. I talk about him all the time. But a lot of like the billionaires in our country, or just a lot of like successful CEOs, et cetera, they have parents that die when they're like exceptionally young, in their teens oftentimes, and it like for some reason inspires success.
Yeah, I could see that, honestly, because it's sort of like, I guess it depends on which parent dies, you know, and sort of their role in the household. But like, I could see it definitely like sort of pushing you to, because, you know, in my case, like, you know, I no longer had dad to do shit for me and tell me how to live. So
but it also sounds like you kind of stopped being scared and just stopped giving a fuck.
That too, yeah, that's definitely a big thing.
And being willing to take risks is like a big thing in success.
Yeah,
you know, you
sure.
have to be willing to take risks.
Definitely.
Moving from Florida to California right now is a big risk. You know what I mean? But you guys are in the middle of it. You're in the thick of it.
Oh yeah, and it took me years to even get to the point where I was ready to take a risk like that. Because even after my dad passed, like, I was more, you know, expressive, like fashion and music wise and shit. But I was still very, I had a lot of self discipline. I was hard on myself about like saving money and stuff like that. Like, I never like party too hard, you know, especially because I made sure I always like paid rent and my bills like on time and everything. And I was really like strict on myself about that stuff.
Yeah, like it seems like he really ingrains responsibility on you.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. And then like it took. Really, like, once the music, you know, sort of started taking off, even in a small way, I started to realize, like, okay, wow, like, I'm just going to grind this so I don't have to work, like, a job, because I started really resenting working because it took time away from doing what I wanted to, actually do. Right. So, you know, eventually I was able to just, the biggest, like, I guess, risk ever was just actually quitting my job finally and just not going back and just saying, fuck it. Like,
that's a big move.
Yeah, quitting and then, you know, simultaneously quitting and then within the month, you know, driving across the country.
Oh, so you just quit and now you're out here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I quit a few months ago and then I came out and visited LA and stayed with my boy Brendan for like a month just to sort of like get the feel of it. Yeah. And then went back
and then you decided on Whittier.
Yeah. No. Whittier was, it just happened to, we actually landed, it's a 3-bedroom house with a big ass sunroom. It's like $2,200. Yeah. Nice. So it just ended up being like a convenient spot, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Whittier's probably a lot. You could probably get a lot more for your bang for your buck out there than you could like in the thick of things.
It's actually a nice area too. It's cool.
We went so on a tangent there. I forgot to like continue the story about guitars. So you pick up a guitar because you discover punk music. Do you instantly start jamming with friends and getting in bands?
I always tried. As soon as I picked up a guitar, even though I sucked ass, like the biggest thing I wanted was to be in a band. So I like any friends that I had who like used to play drums or kind of play bass or whatever, like I would just be like, yo, like we got to start a band. Like when can we practice? Or well, and like no one was ever really like dedicated or into it. So it was just always kind of me playing by myself, or like my brother was into it for a little bit, you know.
How are you teaching yourself? Didn't take any lessons, just like tab sheets or what?
Tab sheets, yeah. Because the only access to the internet I had was I had C++ class in school, in high school, and I would go, when my teacher wasn't looking, I would just go online to like guitartab.net or Ultimate Guitar.
Print out tabs.
And just print out tabs, and just like sheets and sheets of tabs, and then just listen to the song and just learn it. Like, that's how I learned.
Did people think you were kind of strange for not like being very internet at that time, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely
like you didn't
weird.
have a MySpace page or nothing?
Oh, yeah. I was a senior without a MySpace. It was like...
Which is like crazy.
I was lame.
Right.
Yeah, I was just lame as shit. Always. It sucked.
That's so funny.
Always. It's like...
Did you ever be like, man, fuck, Dad, I don't have a MySpace page. You don't know what you're doing to me.
Yeah, kind of. Like, I couldn't, like, speak to him like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got to a point where I was just like, I really, like, want a MySpace. And he'd be like, I'll set one up for you or something. And, like, never did. And, like,
That's
not
like
that I wanted to.
That's the squarest thing I've
that
ever
is
heard.
very square.
Like,
yeah.
yo, my dad set up my MySpace page.
Yeah, dude, everything about my childhood is square. Like, it just sucks.
That's so funny. I wouldn't have guessed that because, like, your outward image portrayed now is like, oh, you must have grown up in like a punk rock household. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, the cool thing about it was honestly, my dad was, when it came to music, he was very, because like he did listen to older, like it was still metal, and it was still at the time that music was made.
That was the cool guy music.
Yeah, and it was very like. It was very rebellious. Like, even bands like Zeppelin and Sabbath were just like, wow, this is Satan shit back then. Like,
Totally.
And, like, he was into that. So he understood the mindset. So he let me listen to punk and shit. Like, he was cool with that. So it sort of crafted, like, who I am now. Basically.
Right. So did you get good at guitar?
No, I never really got fully good. I mean, even when I got older, and... like, I started getting into bands when I was 19. I started playing because I got into the hardcore scene. Yeah. And I started jamming with a band, Nemesis, which was like my band for 4 years straight. And even then, I wrote a lot of the music, but I really just did like power chords and, you know, simple picking melodies. No, I just screamed like backup vocals.
Oh, okay.
And yeah.
Did you secretly wish you were the lead singer?
Part of me wanted to. Yeah, I always wanted to do vocals. But then, like, later on, the same members of Nemesis, we started like a doom metal band, which is like doom is really big now.
Right.
Like, just sort of bringing back old Black Sabbath types, like stoner rock shit.
Right. It's so funny. Well, this is like a pretty rap centric podcast, so most of the guests have been like rap artists or artists that like people that listen to rap would generally fuck with, even if they don't make rap. But I'm always astounded at how thorough the fucking metal scene is with subgenres. Cause fucking stoner metal and doom metal and sludge metal and so many subgenres that like even if I wanted to get into metal again, because I used to like metal when I was a kid, from not like super deep into it, but I knew like the basics. Mm-hmm. I feel like trying to scratch the surface of understanding metal, modern metal would would take forever.
You got to really like come from that scene, because if I didn't come from hardcore, I wouldn't know shit about any of it, because I only know it because the hardcore scene is such a tight-knit community that like even to this day I'm barely on Facebook, but like, you know, when I was on Facebook a lot, it was like friends that were in the scene would post bands, and it's like, because otherwise you're not, you know, if you don't have friends in the scene, they're not going to put you on to different genres and shit like that. So it's like hard to get into it if you aren't already into it. You know, it's weird how it works.
So Nemesis breaks off and starts a doom metal band. And what happens with that?
I jam with that for a little bit on drums. And it was awesome. Like, it was my favorite shit ever.
Are you good at the drums?
I'm decent. I'm good enough to play Doom, which, if you listen to Doom, like, technically, it's very easy.
Is that like double kick drums? And
not even. It's just like really just like, you know, just sludgy, just Doom, just, you know, it's kind of like how Black Sabbath drums were, basically. And yeah, I was decent at it, but when I came out for a month and stayed in Pasadena, they had shows and stuff, and I had to miss them because, you know, this career is more important to me. Mm-hmm. So they understandably had to get a new drummer.
That was just like a few months ago then.
Yeah, Seven Serpents is the doom band, and we started jamming like less than a year ago. Or maybe it was a year ago.
Did Nemesis start picking up like a following?
Yeah, we had a really good local following. But, you know, we never, I guess, were really, like, dedicated enough to actually start touring like we could have. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, our sound was good. It was, like, sort of like a hip-hop hardcore vibe. Like, we sampled, like, hieroglyphics and, not hieroglyphics, but, Souls of Mischief.
Souls of Mischief,
yeah. And, like, that was just our whole, like, vibe and aesthetic was just like hip hop hardcore.
Right.
And it was kids loved it.
So
but,
like Limp Bizkit. No, I'm just fucking.
That's what we used to say to older people who didn't understand. We'd be like, it's like Limp Bizkit.
Shout out Fred Durst.
Shout out Fred Durst.
Big fan of the show. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if he listens. But so wow, so you're like, so the rap thing is like pretty new then, or what?
Sort of, yeah. Being in Nemesis, the vocalist Nemesis, a good friend of mine, Sam, he got me into rap pretty much like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And he showed me, like he was like, luckily he started me with the basics. Like he got me into like Jedi mind tricks and hieroglyphics and stuff like that. Mainly like I was really into Souls of Mischief, and that sort of got me into rapping. And I started rapping like boom bap style,
right?
Because I thought that that was like just the true shit, like the golden age shit,
right? That's everybody's first thought,
always, yeah. And I started to realize like, wow, I kind of sound corny doing this,
right.
So I started just getting in it. It was actually my girl who got me into darker style rap. She like showed me some old Clan stuff, like Space Ghost Perp.
Yeah.
And I was just, it sort of just like changed my world. I was like, wow, like this is like a totally different, something that I relate to more.
Right.
I guess.
So Space Ghost Perp and Raider Clan, like who else in Raider Clan?
I mean, it wasn't so much Clan as it was like Bone Thugs and 3-6 Mafia.
Okay,
but,
so yeah, you did go back and kind of do the history.
It was more Bone Thugs and 3-6 that got me into like doing just that more hype type stuff,
right?
And I started to realize that I could actually rap fast and like utilize that,
right?
Because I sort of just wanted to have like sound like be that like, sort of Bone Thug style.
Well, yeah. So as an older head, it's funny to me viewing you guys' scene from from an outsider's perspective, because I am like, oh wow, it's so crazy how all the rap music that was like really popular when I was in high school, but that was like the underground rap music, like 3-6 Mafia, Crucial Conflict, like various Memphis rap groups,
Tommy Wright, Al Capone, stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. That stuff has like come back so full swing now, and there's a bunch of 18-year-old fans that you guys have that probably have no idea what any of that stuff is.
I know. It's almost frustrating.
To an extent it is, but I mean at the same time, I mean there's something inherently cool about a younger generation getting inspired by like this very regional and somewhat obscure scene that just existed in Memphis. You know what I mean?
It was only there. Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing. I don't really know why it's that specific scene that blew up so much, but it's just like, I mean, it's well, like talking to Chris Travis and Xavier Wolf, they grew up in Memphis, so like their music is like super Memphis centric, like, and it just sounds like old 3-6, like. But that's because like that's what they grew up with, you know what I mean? And I would say like those two guys are pretty fucking influential in the new scene in an offshoot way. But so anyway, shout out them. How do you practice rapping so fast? Honestly, because even when I did the boom bap stuff, like because Nemesis, the band, the hardcore band, like we on our first and only EP, the fifth song on the EP, the last song, we did like this rap song, and we were like, we thought we were the shit because we were the only band who did a rap song in the scene, and we did it over a Milkbone beat, like Naughty by Nature, Milkbone, and I rapped like. The only way that it came out to me was like fast. Like even when I was doing boom bap stuff, I just did like a double time type flow, and which was cool. But it wasn't like I knew that it wasn't gonna like actually get me anywhere, and I wanted to get somewhere. Like I wanted fans and stuff. So I started to realize that like doing like with slower tempo beats and stuff like that, it just sounds better. Rapping fast. But I don't know, as far as like why I rap like that, it just sort of just came out, like, right? Because like I didn't start rapping slow until I was already like a year into my career. Like it used to be every song was just like 64 bars or just straight like fast flow shit,
right?
But yeah.
So do the guys in your band at that point know like, oh, fucking you got this Ghostemane thing going on, and like you're like trying to become a rapper, or was that something that you kind of kept from them?
No, like because like they heard me on the song and they're like, "Damn, dude, you're actually really good." And like I started taking that seriously, and then for a while, Nemesis broke up for like a year, and I didn't really talk to them, and it was just kind of me doing my own thing. And then the scene wanted us to get back together, do like a reunion show, so we did. And then from there, we became a band basically until I moved. But yeah, I mean, they always knew about it, and they were always pretty much supportive of me.
Well, so what's the first thing that starts getting you attention as Ghostemane on the internet?
Oh shit, I don't know.
Like, did you have a moment where you're like, oh, whoa, this song's like picking up? I didn't realize it would.
Yeah, it really just because like my girl, again, shouts out my girl, Christina Baby Loot. She made me make a SoundCloud. And because at the time, like before that, I was putting shit on like DatPiff and Reverb Nation, thinking that like, because that's what everybody in like the local scene in Florida does. They use those sites, not knowing that those sites like really suck for like actually getting a fan base.
Right.
So I made a SoundCloud, and I realized for whatever reason that got me like a lot more. Because I guess SoundCloud's designed to put people on a new shit because of the recommended tracks and all that stuff. So I just kind of kept putting music out and just really stayed motivated as far as like consistently putting in, at least a song every 2 weeks or, an album every 2 months or something like that. And eventually like more kids just started to listen, and then
well, so how long is it until you start kind of getting adopted into this, whatever this new scene is that you're a part of? I don't know how to label the scene. Like in my head, trying to compartmentalize it, it makes sense. Like the groups that I would associate together. Yeah. But I wouldn't know like what kind of subgenre to call it of rap. But it's definitely like you guys have your own little subgenre going on.
Yeah. There's still to this day, I don't think there's like really a name for it, Yeah. It's just like you just know kind of what it is sort of. And there's just kids who listen to it.
It's just like it's the common themes of the music are like fast rapping and fucking a huge 808 drop on the one kick that like makes the crowd start moshing, and then you know what I mean? It's like bah, da, 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 da. Like I don't know how to but it's I mean, dude, I'll tell you, I to keep it 100,000, like it's not something that I would probably listen to in my leisure time, but every time I go to a show, I'm like, I want to fucking kill somebody. Like it's just so much fun to like just to like destroy people in the crowd too. You know? It makes me wish I was 18 again.
Honestly, what it is like I mean, well, what I could really comment on now that I know for a fact is just like most of the kids that are making this type of music are like me. They're old metal fans and hardcore fans. And we sort of just put that energy into rap now, and like sort of just it's like a blending of the genres, even though a lot of times it doesn't blatantly sound like rap metal or whatever. Like there is that just
there's
energy
a hardcore
of it.
aesthetic to the crowds as well.
Like
it's definitely the crowds mosh. Like if a Denzel Curry song comes on, the crowd's gonna mosh. You know what I mean? Like
I love that about it. It's awesome.
Well, that being said, and this is something where if this part of the conversation doesn't go well, we'll just edit it out, because I don't know if you've thought about this or not. I'd struggle with it a lot. Do you ever think about like the cultural appropriation aspect of it, and the fact that like, we were metal kids, but then we found out that like rap it can, you know what I mean? Like, and like I said, it is the sound is very much like an old Memphis style sound that's like re-blowing up. Do you ever feel like, oh man, I'm a white kid and like this is kind of fucked up or like this problematic? Do you ever think that or struggle with it?
Honestly, like no, because like no one's ever really brought that to my attention as far as like, we're destroying a culture.
I don't think it's destroying it. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's paying homage.
What I mean? Well, because like from what I understand and what I've seen, like Tommy Wright, because Tommy Wright's still like active on Twitter, and like a lot of old Memphis artists are, or older rather. They seem to be, like fucking advocating it.
That's
so
tight.
I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any sort of like, if there was a movement of people like against it happening, then I would maybe start to be more conscious of it. But I feel like it's just sort of music evolving, and
totally. And that isn't to like call out your scene specifically, because the same thing 15, 20 years ago when underground rap was still sounding like boom bap, it was still a bunch of white people doing it, and the same conversation could have gotten brought up then. Just as I get older, I struggle with it, particularly with just how like, just with like I said, the race relations in America right now, they're so fucked up, and so I like constantly question my place in the world about it.
I know what you mean.
It seems like you kind of started this as like as an island by yourself, like I said, and then but now do you feel yourself becoming adopted into this scene? Because like when I saw you, it was at the Suicide Boys show. Like Peep was there, Slug Christ is there. All these people that are like they get their internet. They have their big internet followings, and you seem to be. You got brought out on stage as a special guest.
Yeah.
And so I feel like those guys know who you are. You know who they are. So how long did it take before you started getting like invited into this little world?
I kind of had to grind like really for a solid like year or two, before, because people just naturally associate you with other artists that they know in that genre. Yeah. So it kind of just, it's like that natural like association. Like I'm not going to be invited to play a show of, an artist or a rapper who like sounds nothing like me, Right. It's sort of like, I guess like just that natural like association.
Yeah, totally. And I get that because as a fan, it's easy to compartmentalize groups that sound the same, but I know within those little scenes it can be very competitive. Yeah, and sometimes people don't get invited in. I'm sure there are a bunch of other people that would fit that genre where like they're not on stage at a Suicide Boys or Puya show or whatever show because like those guys don't fuck with them probably. So like
I guess
like you know what I mean? So like
on that note, I'm sort of just like lucky that the dudes that are really killing it right now like genuinely fuck with me. So that's like a good thing.
How'd you start meeting them?
Honestly, once I like started actually playing like getting booked for shows, and when I came out to LA, like
in Florida, you're getting booked for shows.
No. There's the scene in Florida is just bad for that kind of thing.
Isn't that where a bunch of those fools are from?
Yeah, but like as far as like local support in shows, because like even artists that are like from that area, like now it's getting a little bigger, but back then like when I started rapping like 3-4 years ago, like even artists that were from South Florida, like when they would play a show, like not a lot of people would come out compared to like Texas or Denver or Arizona. Like those are more like the poppin' scenes. Like people are really like passionate there. So
forgive me for I'm not trying to like make this about other people, but like are all like you, Suicide Boys, Puya, Fat Nick, all from Florida, right?
No? Suicide Boys from New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans. That's right. Never mind. I knew that. But Puya and Fat Nick are from Florida?
Yeah.
Are they from close to where you at?
Yeah, I think they're from Miami, which is like an hour away from me.
But you guys never ran into each other locally?
No.
Okay, so there's not like a big. So in California, when I was on the come up as a kid, there was a scene in the Bay that was very distinctive. There was a scene in LA that was very distinctive. But then we would all kind of meet up in Santa Barbara and have shows there and battles there and stuff like that because it's kind of not a halfway point, but it's like a good midway point. Yeah. And so the scene's kind of intertwined, but that kind of stuff's not happening in Florida?
No, because there's no real like scene of any kind. Like at least that I experienced. Like when I used to play shows in South Florida, it was like a lot of mainstream influence. Like everybody sort of wanted to be part of like Maybach Music and like big labels, right. And their whole grind was centered around that. Like just like flashy clothes and like mobbing up with like 15 people to a show, and sort of like the only people who were at the shows were people that artists brought out, like and said, come to my show, or like like gave them tickets or sold tickets or whatever. Like it was never. There's no like local scene of like, I mean, it's growing now, like I said, but like when I was really grinding in the shows, there's no one that would just be like, oh, there's a show and see a flyer and just go.
It's not like an underground rap. There's not an underground rap scene.
Yeah, no, basically. It wasn't. Yeah, it's not like that at all. Or in Cali, there is one.
So how did you? What inspired you to like come out and visit California?
Just like sort of seeing that like that's where everybody is, and like I had friends there, and stuff like Ned's a good friend of mine. Yeah,
shout out Ned. That's the homie Braden. I don't know if I'm supposed to say his real name, but he, I told you Braden. Braden used to hit me up about this dude Milo, and Milo was like the 5th guest ever on this podcast. They went to college together, and so, but yeah. Braden, he's a smart kid and he's got a very good ear for talent, and him vouching for you is one of the reasons that is definitely like why I was like, okay, this will be a good idea to have him on. Yeah. So that's a good dude. But how did you meet Braden? Like, because Braden is the ultimate kind of like pot stirrer. It seems like he's a spoon that stirs the pot for a lot of people and introduces people. He's a maven of sorts. He's a mensch. And so, how do you meet him? And does he start introducing you to other people too?
I met him online, and he basically like. He produced a few songs for me. We actually we did an EP together, like all his production, and then I noticed that because I never knew that he raps too, and
I didn't either.
Yeah, he has some songs like they're more like fun like type music. And I heard it and I was like instantly like, wow, like we got to do just like a fun song. Cause like all my music is so damn serious. And like, I did some like different, style stuff with him. And, from there, we just sort of like developed more of like a online relationship, I guess. And then when I actually
pause.
I didn't actually meet him in person until, a few weeks ago when I moved out here, because it was all just virtual. Cause even when I came out to LA for like a month, that happened to be the month that he was on the East Coast in New York, doing his thing. And I met him for the first time like a couple weeks ago.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny. I mean, he seems like he's the type of dude that you want in your corner, though, because he's like out here just introducing himself to everybody, knowing everybody,
exactly,
and blah blah blah. Now that you're out here, how's the adjustment been going to moving to LA? It's
good. Like, the hard part is always for me, like, even when I used to move in Florida, because I've lived in a lot of spots in Florida, like, whenever my year lease was up, I would just move. It's always the same of, like, oh, man, could I actually create here? Like, my studio's moved now. I'm looking at different things. It's different, and I'm scared because I get so used to the same shit. And
it's so funny how producers are like that. Like, man, my producer, he moves a lot as well. Mm-hmm. And every time he moves, it's like, yeah, man, it's going to take me like probably 3 or 4 months till I'm like comfortable in this spot. Yeah. And I'm like, dog, you need to get a place that you're just comfortable and just stay there. Then, you know?
Honestly, though, but like the nature of how I am and how I plan to be in my life is I want to move around a lot. Like, I don't want to stay in one place. Right. So I've forced myself sort of to just like create and get used to different, just like chaos in different spots. And like, even, my girl will tell you I had mental breakdowns the first couple weeks here just because I'm like, holy shit, like, what am I, like, I'm not used to anything. Like,
the first year in LA is really fucking hard, man.
Yeah,
like, it's a hard place to get used to, but once you get past that first year, I feel and
it's good now, it's going good. I'm fine. I just, you
gotta imagine like, when I moved here a decade ago, it was before smartphones. And so trying to find your way around here without an iPhone. Can you imagine that? Dude, I'd have to fucking go to, not even Google Maps. I would go to mapquest.com and like search out directions and write them all down. Because it was before phone cameras even were like a huge thing. So you couldn't like take a picture and just read it on your phone either. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. The point of that is it is a tough city to get used to, but I'm glad that you're starting to adjust.
For sure.
Thanks, man. Are you going to be playing a lot of more shows out here or what?
There's some stuff in the works for LA, Texas, things like that.
Cool.
There's a lot of promoters out here, so
man.
And venues and options. So.
Always warehouse parties every night. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
All the time, dude. Yeah, you'll get in soon. I feel like you seem like a good dude with a good head on your shoulders, man, and it seems like you're working hard. And I think that promoters and people that throw shows are they're happy to work with people like that who have their shit together. And you don't act like a diva either, which is very cool. Like, you're very approachable. We organized all this on like 4 days notice.
Exactly.
After just seeing you on stage for a second. So these are good traits, and I see a bright future for you, and I hope the best for you. So
thanks, man.
That being said, where can the people find you online?
You just follow pretty much everything, just Ghostemane, Ghostemane.
Yeah, that E in the middle is very important.
It's crucial.
Yeah, Ghostemane. And correct. If you Google that, it's very SEO friendly because of that E in the middle, I think.
Oh, yeah. As soon as you Google it, it's just like everything, my Spotify pops up and everything.
You'll find SoundCloud, Spotify, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, man. Thank you for coming in. This was dope, and I'm excited to see your performance, and I think people are going to be impressed with how fast you twist your tongue.
Hell yeah. Thanks, man.
Pause to that, too. That being said, my name is Lee. Some of you guys might know me as Intuition. You can follow me on Twitter at It's Intuition. Follow my man, Ben Shim, behind the boards, making the shit sound buttery, at I Am Database, base with 2 S's. You can follow us as a unit at Kinda Neat. Everything wrapped up in a pretty package at kindaneat.net, which... You know what? Finally, I think I might be getting that redesigned here. I know I've been talking about that for 3.5 years, but it looks like I found somebody that might be down to redesign it. YouTube.com/kindaneat, where you are going to see Ghostemane perform Venom, and you're going to be impressed with it. And don't forget, if you are a weekly listener and this is part of your weekly routine, shout out to this dude Jose that I met last night that's friends with Clayton. He said he goes, wait, are you? He's like, I listened to your podcast, and I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I never even seen a picture of you. I didn't recognize your voice. I'm like, that's dope. So shout out to Jose for listening. If you're somebody like him, go to Patreon patreon.com/kinda neat and pledge like $1 per episode. And then that way it just helps us keep the lights on in the studio and put some extra scratch in me and Ben's pocket, because this is just a labor of love and we don't make a lot of money off this YouTube channel because we're promoting other people's songs and they make the money off that, which is amazing. Patreon.com/kinda neat. Go hook it up. Or you can just like, if you want to just shoot me some money, because my birthday is on Friday, 2 days after this episode is getting released. Oh, yeah. I'll be turning 35. I'm so old. You can just go to paypal.me/kinda neat and just send us some money. We're down with that too. If you send me a chunk of money, I'll shout you out on the show too. Holler. I think that's all my stuff. Oh, go to your apps on your phone, download the podcast app, subscribe, search for Kinda Neat, subscribe. Leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating, blah, blah, blah. If you're still listening at this point, you're fucking stupid because I say the same thing every week. That is my new friend Ghostemane. My name is Lee, and this was Kinda Neat.